seen this yet? This is an older gameplay of a game that I actually kind of like stumbled upon, but this is actually not real life. I know like if you're looking at it, you're gonna think like, holy crap, like this is real. Like this is some dude like with some GoPro footage. But no, this is not this is not GoPro footage. This is a video game. This is a PlayStation 5 game called Ride 4. This is something that I saw like in my timeline a little while ago, and I was like, man, this is kind of nuts. Like when you were talking about like graphics and like new improvements for video games, this is kind of up on that list of things that just kind of exploded. And this one is kind of shocking to me because of like how quickly we've kind of come from, you know, average games. Oh no, I'm gonna get an ad right in the middle. Are you serious? I'm gonna get absolutely wrecked by an ad, bro. But yeah, this is something that is kind of interesting in terms of gameplay. Like this is actually kind of nuts. I don't know. I own a motorcycle. I ride a little bit, and I haven't for a while. But when I first saw this, I was like, dude, this is like, I thought it was like actual footage of like some guy's GoPro. And I think it's like the helmet cam and how it kind of like moves a little bit, like the head bobble. And then I also think there's a little bit of stuff going on with the road. Obviously, like if you're riding around in rain like this is too much. But I'm not big into racing games. But this one seems kind of interesting. I don't really do too much like motorcycle stuff or anything else, but I thought this was somewhat unique, and I figured I'd just share it a little bit. But no, I just thought it was interesting, and I was kind of curious what you guys think too. But no, I've had a motorcycle since I was in like high school. I was actually like my senior year, I think, in high school, somewhere around there. I ended up buying like a little Ninja 250, so it wasn't anything crazy, but it's just been, you know, kind of one of those deals I don't do now since I live in a city. But looking at this gameplay though, I can't believe it's actually gameplay. Like when you're kind of like from a distance, you're kind of like not sure what it is. You're like, is this actually like a GoPro footage, or is it, you know, some guy actually riding? But obviously with rain and wet water like this, it'd be a little bit hard. And then the amount of like spray and mist that kind of comes off of other people would be a little intense in real life. But probably wouldn't recommend riding on water like that. It's just not fun. And you normally you slide around two wheels and less friction. Not a good idea. But I was always kind of shocked like how real this looked, and I wondered why. Like, why does this look so real? Is it just the graphics are solid? Is it a mixture of like the colors, lighting? Is it the ground itself, like, you know, actually like having the water and everything else? But this is PlayStation 5. You're watching it in 4K video, which is gonna make it a little bit better, but the physics are kind of inaccurate. I mean, you're not really gonna get like perfect when it comes to video games. You know, you can have like simulators and some realistic style things, but you're not gonna have like perfect physics all the time, you know, but they're getting closer. I grew up with video games like, you know, the original Game Boy. So you're talking like a little LED screen or LCD screen at the time or whatever it was, which was like just grayish, greenish, and black like pixels on the screen. And that was, you know, not too long ago, like 20 years back. So I think people are kind of forgetful how far we've come since then. Like this is actually just pretty incredible on its own. And the neighborhood kind of looks real. That's what's actually like blowing my mind the most about like this whole thing. Like the houses, somehow the motion kind of seems more believable. You know, there's little moments where it kind of like the illusion fades, but if you're just kind of watching it at a glance, you're kind of like, oh, wait a minute, and this guy just wipes out there. That's normally what would happen if you're running around on wet surfaces like this, but I don't know what it is. I think it's just like the head movement, because the camera's not like fixed and just locked in like normal games. And then it's also something to do with like the lighting. I think that like unnatural kind of like I don't know, maybe I could compare it to like the Blair Witch Project in a way. If you're like watching like the Blair Witch Project, you know, the guy's walking around with the camera filming the ground the whole movie. And I don't know, it's maybe just more natural movement, I guess, of like maybe the camera positioning or the player itself, but the entire scene's pretty grayscale. You know, it's like overcast, kind of cloudy, and kind of dull, but it makes it maybe more believable with lighting too. But if you're into racing games, this is something you might want to check out as well. But I'm not too big on them. I used to play like Forza, and then what was the other one? Gran Turismo was the one that I used to play a long time ago. And I just kind of moved on from racing games. You know, even just playing like old NASCAR games, just driving the car backwards on the track to like have a pileup accident or something was kind of what we ended up doing. Just kind of weird stuff. But I never found them too exciting, but they're getting a lot more. Yeah, peep the brake fluid. Yeah, if you're looking at it, it's behind my webcam. You'll see it occasionally, but it tilts. So like when he turns, it moves. So there are some like in-game physics that make it look interesting as well. Like there's a lot of details, but I'm just more shocked, like even just like in this area, like right here, like as he's driving along and you have some of the houses in the background, it just kind of looks like a normal neighborhood. Like you're actually driving through it. And it just, you know, outside of like just removing the bike from the video, you'd be like, man, that's kind of almost too realistic. Like what's going on there? Why is it that way? But I think we're coming a long way. And, you know, we talk about Warzone graphics and everything too, like how it's harder to see players. It's the same thing when you play something like this or do something unusual. Footage or graphics are just getting better and better. So environments are getting better. Lighting is getting better. Shadows are getting better. Physics are getting better. You're like, you know, you mentioned the brake fluid down here, like this little container, how it's like wobbling. You know, video games normally would not do that. Like one of the first time I think I ever saw like fluid physics was like Splinter Cell back in the day. And the way that they did it was that like you would shoot a fish tank, and wherever you shot the fish tank, the water would lower to that bullet level, and then it would just kind of like drain the tank a little up until that level. So if you shot the bottom of the tank, it would empty out the water. If you shot to the top, and then it would just empty out to where that first bullet was. But yeah, I mean, things have obviously gotten way better, and it's probably only gonna get better, almost to a point like where I think we're gonna have an issue with like realism, and realism is gonna be almost too extreme in some of these. And even then though, like you guys can look at some cool projects that already exist, not just racing games like this, but Forza is, you know, a good example, like how high detailed textures are in like the new Forza games. They're kind of absurd, but there's one thing, AI, like, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. Like, yeah, the whole deep fake thing was kind of weird. It's kind of an off topic thing, but there was one where it was like AI generated human faces. So it just took a bunch of pictures of real people and then generated faces of made up people, like just completely make believe, but they're high resolution and they're real. Like they look like a normal person. And we're kind of getting to that point where it's like, well, wait until they get it into video games where it's just AI generated, you know, players, characters, whatever, and they look real. I think we're a ways away with like the modeling and stuff, but even just racing games and lighting and textures like this are really cool, because you can kind of see like where they're pushing certain limits. And this is PlayStation. This is not, you know, PC, whatever gameplay. This is just PlayStation 5 footage. So you pop this on a PC, you're probably going to see a little bit of graphics improvement as well too, like lighting wise. But I can't imagine that, you know, in the next 5-10 years, it's not just going to keep getting better and better and better and better over time. So we got a little ways, but even just in my time, you know, I started out with a handheld console like a Game Boy, and you know, 2D graphics, and now we're sitting here with this, and it's like, oh yeah, it's just normal. I think people kind of don't really think much on it, or they focus too much on like, oh, the graphics aren't real enough, and it's like, dude, like you can't complain. Like you really can't complain. It's gotten better and better over the years. But this is a cool little game that I saw, and I just wanted to like show it real quick before we hop into some Warzone. But I thought it was really, really cool. It's called Ride 4, and it just seems to be more realistic in terms of racing games or footage that I saw. And I think it came out like a couple months back, like maybe 6 to 7 months ago at most. But I think it was more like 3 or 4. But I was more shocked when I saw that, and it was like PlayStation footage. I was just like, dude, like how is this PlayStation footage, but it looks better than like PC stuff, which is kind of just surprising. No.